Hi! I'm so excited to be singing my first Violetta this upcoming July. And anyway, you're probably wondering how it's possible that I could be making, a video or blabbing about it so soon after learning that I would be singing the role. Well, the thing is that I'm not starting from zero with this role. And in fact, especially with a really famous opera, it's very seldom that we opera singers are starting completely from zero. Typically we will have had the chance to cut our teeth either on scenes or arias, from that opera. We've sung the arias in auditions, so we've actually been able to have at least some experience with that role before having the chance to take on the big shebang, if you will. So, of course, all of that said, singing, scenes and arias is a completely different ballgame from singing an entire role, and especially one that is as long and intense as Traviata. So you're probably asking, how the heck do you prepare a role like that? Well, this gets really into sort of the physical, fitness aspect of preparing a role. And some of the short answers to that question are pacing, 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 and pacing. A role like Traviata really is comparable to a marathon. So I actually had a similar challenge a few years ago when I sang the role of Gilda. And while she isn't on stage as much as Violetta is, when she is on stage, she never shuts up. And everything that she does do when she is on stage is at least as intense, if not more so, in fact, than what Violetta has to do on stage at any given time, at least in my opinion. Of course, every singer, is different, and they'll have different takes on this. That said, what I learned while singing Gilda and what I'm applying here is that when you first start learning the role, you actually start at the end of whichever act you're learning. Why do you do that? Because then you teach your body what it's like to finish that act fresh, and not when you're kaput after having sung an act's worth of opera, whether Act 1, Act 2, I should say the first part of Act 2 in the case of Traviata, and then the second part of Act 2, and then Act 3. So one of the things that you really learn is that sometimes the way you sing a certain phrase can really influence how you're able to get to the end of that opera. You start from the very end and you work your way back a few phrases. You go back all the way, sing it through to the end. Work your way back further, sing it through to the end, and then back, and then back, and then back. And so what you find is you identify the sort of phrases within that act with which, if you had a slightly healthier approach, a slightly more efficient approach, then that could make all the difference in the world as far as whether you're able to finish that act with flying colors or not. In fact, what I found is that for me there was one phrase in Act 1, one phrase that made all the difference in the world on that front. And I will mark this phrase for now just because I don't want to blast off the speakers of my iPhone. And if you're wondering what it means to mark something, it means to sing it one octave lower. So that phrase is folie, folie, So all I had to do to make a big difference as far as being able to finish that act with flying colors was just slightly change the way I sang that one phrase. What this is comparable to, at least for me, is when watching Olympic women's gymnastics, something the commentators talk about is how when they're doing their vaults, that the way that they prepare their vaults and get off the vaulting horse makes all the difference in the world as far as whether they're able to do all the rotations in the air they need to, get all the height that they need, and land on their feet and hopefully stick that vault, land that vault without hopping or without, crossing their legs or anything. A really good preparation can help them achieve their optimal vault. and an ill executed preparation can derail them very easily. So opera is very much the same way. How you sing one phrase can make all the difference as far as whether you land on your feet and stick, I suppose, the act, or whether you fall on your butt in front of the entire audience. So this is basically the work I'm doing right now on the role, and that really is sort of the physical aspect of what it takes to prepare a role like that. Okay, so that's enough for one day. I'm gonna have plenty more to say, in the coming weeks, and I look forward to sharing it with you all. Bye!